Welcome back to the Altars and Ashes podcast. I'm BD Fleming.
I'm Austin Tucker.
And I'm Robbie Stringer.
And we're very clearly not bulk recording today.
I just only have one shirt that I've been wearing for a while.
These are the only clothes that I have. Please send us money.
Look even sadder. There it is. Yes. Puppy eyes. All right. So today we are going to talk about fortification. Okay. The last episode, we talked about the home as the headquarters. We talked about the Christian home as where we work, we worship, we disciple our families, and the place where future faithful generations are built. But the obvious next question is what happens when the headquarters has no walls? And so if a father wants a Christian home, he has to put some structure in place to maintain that level of fidelity that he's built. And so that's sort of what we're talking about. We're on chapter 8 in Strongholds of the Kingdom, which is aptly called Walls and Gates, I think. Is that right? Something like that. Let's see here. Yeah, thick walls and clear gates. Couldn't remember. So last episode, Austin, you started to talk and I stopped you because you were going to talk about how when you, with your daughter specifically, but with all your kids, you would allow them to be friends with any of the kids inside of a circle.
Yeah.
And so what you were starting to define was what it looks like to have walls built up. Yeah. So expand on that a little bit, and then we'll jump into the whole thesis and go from there.
When your children become friends with another child, it is not just that child, it is the ideologies of that household. It is you are in fact, if the friendship gets deep, you're in fact allowing another parent to be a part of the discipline and the discipleship of your child if they're going over on activities with that family. So it's vitally important. I think this is even more consequential when they're younger, that the people you allow to influence them be people who share your ideology or at least be within the realm of your ideology.
Yeah. Yep.
And they don't necessarily I'm a Reformed Calvinistic, so my ideologies are very rounded in the providence of God. My kids have been friends with, like, one family was Pentecostal, but they were actually faithful, good Christians, and I was fine with
I thought you said they were Pentecostal.
They were Pentecostal.
Just kidding. JK.
JK, who? Anyways. Yeah, it's my adage was you can be friends with anybody you want to be friends with inside this circle.
Yeah.
And so you give them liberty and freedom on a leash.
That's right. I mean, the point of this episode and this chapter is to talk about the fact that ultimately clear standards are actually a practice of wise discernment, because what is not guarded will eventually become lost. And so, in the chapter, we talk a lot about, Nehemiah built the wall.
Hey, Austin, I have a question for Austin about what he just said, if you don't mind.
I do, but
okay.
It's fine. It's acceptable.
I'm not taking questions at this time.
Okay.
Then we'll carry on.
No, I was going to want, because you've had, you have an adult child. You have another adult child that's kind of just graduated. You have a teenage son. So this is things you've had to think about. And I have a son it's 11, that's going into 6th grade, going into middle school this year. So, I've had to start thinking about things, but these are things you actually had to not just think about, but actually do.
Been through.
To what degree? Because if you tell your kids, you're welcome to be friends with any perfect kids that have no flaws and whose families are perfect, they're not going to have any friends, right?
Yeah.
So
I believe that's a bit of a straw man, though.
So
that was a bit of a straw
yeah,
man.
of course.
Yeah.
I know you're not going to say that.
Yeah.
So, because of course it's unrealistic, right? Like nobody could do that. So, where do you draw the lines? How do you know where to draw the lines? Is there a specific set of guidelines? Is it just a feel that you can get for certain kids and their attitudes or families or what is it?
When you talk to the kid, so you've been a teacher for a long time.
Yeah.
When you have a bad kid enter the school, how many days does it take for him to find the other troublemakers?
Not long at all.
Not long at all.
No.
And so you start off initially by watching the kids. Do they respect authority? And then you meet the parents at some point. And that's where my lines draw. Because there's kids I don't mind my kids being friends with when they were little, particularly at school. But when anytime they'd say, hey, so-and-so's going to XYZ, and he invited me to go, there were some families I'd be like, I don't think you need to go. I'm fine with them being friends at school.
Acquaintances.
Yeah, I'm fine with them having friendships at school, but I don't want their parents influencing their ideology or being a part of their discipleship. On the other hand, I meet the kid and first judge, because the Bible says even children are known by their doings, whether they're good or evil.
Right.
Okay. So the whole ideology that children are these innocent, in the words of the old preacher, people accredit, Bauckham. He didn't come up with it. The vipers and diapers.
Yeah.
I've heard that for years. They are sinners. Okay. So they're not perfect, but you'll see kids who are good kids, but their family is not in line with our ideology. I'm okay with them being friends with them. They're welcome to come to my house. I've had kids who will come to my house. I don't want my kids going to their house. But there's other families that haven't line up with my ideology. I don't care at who house they're at, because I know they're going to be getting the same.
So the big thing is if there's something about this child or the family that concerns me, they don't spend time unsupervised with those people. In other words, they're not going to their house. I assume they're not, when they get older, they're not staying out late.
And I think you were hitting on a truth. It's foolish to believe our kids won't be friends with kids who don't share our ideology. That's foolish. That's just not realistic. But as the dad, and it's less so, like now my kids are all of the age where their character's been established. They're either going to be godly or they're not at this point. Okay. So now it's more or less dealing with dad and answering when they cross those lines.
Right.
But when they were little, it was even more in those forming days. Younger, I would say the forming days go up to about 10th grade, where you're forming that.
Because my older son, so far, I'm very happy with
he's a great boy.
With the friends that he has chosen. But I have had to think in the back of my mind, as he goes through middle school, if I start to see something that concerns me, what am I going to say? How am I going to approach that? I'm sure that has to be on the minds of a lot of people who are having kids that are starting to go into middle school, getting into high school. Maybe they're thinking right now, like, I have some real concerns, and I just let them stay at their house. Last weekend, and it concerns me what was going on.
There are people who will listen to this podcast and be like, "Well, aren't you holier than thou?" I'm just saying, those kids are always welcome to come visit my house. I didn't always want my kids going up to their house.
Did you ever find that was offensive to some people? Like your kids
I never said it to their faces. You know what I mean?
Okay, yeah. Holier than thou, whatever. I don't mind being called names. We don't let ours do any sleepovers. Period. Bottom line. So that way I never have to say to a parent, it's actually you, because nobody is going to they're not going to stay at anybody's house. Which, in a way sort of sucks for them. Okay. Cause I remember I got to go do that, but I also know that I did stuff that I should not have done. And I was exposed to things that I should not have been exposed to.
I learned things I shouldn't have
learned. And it was even in homes that I thought that were vetted. And so here's what I would say, not that you asked me. If we are talking, in the last episode, we talked about how important it was to make your mark on that home. And that's great. But the moment that you don't have any walls up, everything that you've built crumbles. And so, especially, kids are will pick up what anybody else is doing. And so, like, you have to know your own kid, number one. Right. Some kids are more strong-willed, some are not. Some will pick up. But ultimately, what I think we have to get out of our mind is that having standards is unloving anyway.
Yeah.
Because by design, it's actually a loving thing to put standards in place and to protect. So I think that's part of the hard part is like and what do you do if like you've allowed them to go to their house and then you find out something later. Then you got to be like, well, he's been going over to your house for 5 years, but he's not allowed to go anymore. then what do you do? Like, that becomes a hard conversation. And so for us, it was just one of those things where it was like, we're just not going to do that. You know,
I think though, if you're not going to do that and you are going to pick and choose whose house they can stay with, you just may have to be willing to have the hard conversation. Because like if you're talking about your kids' future and their lives, or having a hard conversation, like I know which one I'm going to choose. You know,
all I know is that it doesn't take a very large pebble to clog up the cogs. And when the kids are little or they're younger, they don't have the filter to keep those pebbles out. And so, we spend all this time teaching our kids our standards, God's moral principles, all these things. You have one situation where they go and they meet some adult of some child that your kid's friends with.
Uh-huh.
And they're like, well, what do you mean homosexuality's wrong? My sister, she's a lesbian and she's a great a person. You're going to meet her later today. Okay. And I'm not saying that there can't be people with good personalities that are those things, but now you've got a child who's being confused because it's hard for them to differentiate the categories. The fact that you can be a nice person and a relatively decent person in society, but still be in a great sin against God and it be wrong.
Well, and they can be decent people, but have no standards in their home.
Yes.
And so ultimately, if you don't have any standards around, the media that's in your home, the friendships, what kind of education, what kind of speech, what they think of worship, money, ultimately they're still being formed, but they're now being formed by something that you're not teaching them. So it's the lack of formation that's forming them.
Mm-hmm.
That's what fears me. And so this whole chapter, is on walls and gates. And I've got 3 categories of walls. Okay.
Will if we build these walls, will Mexico pay for them?
Yes.
Okay.
So that was one. Did you see the line I put in there about Trump's wall?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay. So I talked about how people in general don't like the idea of walls, and I made the statement that if you want any proof of that, just bring up the border wall in Mexico and see. You'll have a lot of people who are angry.
Everybody knows that walls are racist, and so we should all live outside.
I was listening to this podcast, and this fairly nonpartisan podcast, and he was talking about going to the Mexican border, and he's like, I looked and I saw the parts of the wall built by George W. Bush, not racist. And then I saw the ones built by Obama, not racist.
Yeah.
But then I saw the ones built by Trump.
Racist.
Those were racist. Yeah.
I'm assuming he was being sarcastic.
Yeah, he was. Yeah.
All right. So doctrinal walls is the first category. And so here I'm really talking about what we confess in our home, right? And specifically, this also sort of applies to churches as well. And so we're talking about, guarding the faith in the home. So creeds, confessions, catechisms, what you teach your kids about the faith. And so would you guys add anything on that one? Basically, what I'm saying there is that it's important to teach your kids what you believe and why you believe it before somebody else tries to teach them.
And I'll say this, the modern line in the modern movies of our day, you always have this, a Jew marries a Christian, and it's like, we're not going to tell our kids what to believe. They'll figure it out when they get older.
Or like our vice president, sort of.
Actually, I've been listening to his book that came out.
Yeah.
And the weird thing is, like, in that book, he talks about, because he went from growing up
Christian,
vaguely evangelical,
right,
to becoming an atheist, to then becoming Roman Catholic.
Yeah.
And if you want to read, it's called, I think, Communion.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I haven't quite finished it yet. But his wife is Hindu, and he was an atheist when they got married.
Yep.
But I even think that's strange.
Yeah, sure.
And maybe it's just because religion is such, and my faith are so part of me, and always have been because I was raised that way. But I can't imagine marrying someone with such a different view of the world than me.
Yep.
Unless, and I don't know Usha Vance, I think is her.
Yeah.
I don't know to what degree her Hinduism really influences her everyday life. But he mentions in the book about when he's starting to kind of refine his faith. He's like, you know, I think they were engaged and just about to get
Didn't
married.
she like encourage him to find his faith?
Yes,
Yeah.
because it sounded to me like it was something like, I see, because he kind of had a difficult upbringing.
Yeah.
Vice President Vance did. And she just sees that church is good for, he's like, you go to therapy, it doesn't do anything for you. You go to church and it does. And so because of that, I'm going to be supportive. And he says that the weeks he's able to go to church, she goes with him, helps him take the kids. But that's got to be a weird situation. Now, in his case, of course, he'd already developed this relationship with this person when he was not saying he was any type of Christian. I'm sure there are lots of people out there like that. But to what you're saying is there are people who intentionally marry people of different faiths.
Well, and the thing I was getting at is, as the head of my house, the priest of my household, you know, the adage should be like Joshua: as for me and my house, we will serve the Lord. And so for my kids, while they're under my house, we are in church. The Bible is our sole authority for faith and practice. More particularly, we're a Reformed Baptist. This is what we believe. We believe God is sovereign over all things. These are the catechisms, which I didn't catechize my kids because I actually discovered that later on. And now I pastor a church and I have people doing what I wish I'd have done. Now, I did disciple my kids. My kids know their scriptures. But the point is this, is it's not, oh, your kids will believe what they believe. This is what our house believes. And then you disciple them to that end so that hopefully by the time they become adults, what they believe is theirs and not yours.
And deep down, everybody believes this.
Yes.
Right? Like if you go to the average progressive family, they don't say, well, maybe our kids will end up racist. Maybe they won't. I'm not going to push that on them. No, they're going to say racism's wrong, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean,
wait, are you saying that you don't think that? You progressives think that, but you don't think racism's wrong?
I'm going to take a stand.
Okay.
Racism is wrong.
Okay.
Yes, it's bad. Yeah. But my whole point is that no matter what perspective you're coming from, you are going to teach your kids certain values. And I think it's very foolish for anybody to marry somebody that has a completely different outlook. And then say, well, I'm just going to let our kids may choose one of our religions. But when I lived in Chicago, there was so much of this. There were Catholics and Muslims getting married, and I'm like, what? Like what do you?
Well, the Bible strictly commands not to be unequally yoked with unbelievers. We're not supposed to be yoked with them in covenant. They're not our brothers and sisters, and we ought not marry into them.
So how do we, since this has come up, like how do we help our people apply this if they're already in that situation? Let's say they got married, neither one of them were Christian. Somebody becomes a Christian, and so now they're married to somebody that's a non-Christian. I can think of at least a handful of people that are in that situation. And so, you know, with the walls is what I'm getting at. Not necessarily like, you know, we would say if you're in that situation, you pray for them, you continue to honor God and do what the Bible says. That's your, God is your first place of obedience, but how do they incorporate these walls? Let's say a husband has a wife that's not a Christian. She doesn't care about any of these walls. He does. Or vice versa. You've got a wife who's a Christian, the husband's not. She cares about these walls. How do we these standards, right?
I think it looks different depending on which one is the Christian.
I think it does too. I agree.
Yeah.
Because if it's the husband that's a Christian, then I think he has to say, here are the standards and rules that we are going to apply in our house.
Yeah.
And hopefully the wife will be willing to go along with that. But I think you still got to do what's right and again, hopefully it works out, but whatever happens kind of happens. If it's the woman, of course, the Bible directly talks about
Yep,
this.
yep.
Whereas in First Peter, it says that you honor your husband, and you live rightly to him,
And then redeem the
and
family
and
by
try
that.
and try to influence the family for
Yep.
what is right. Yeah.
So, okay, good. So, doctrinal walls, what you believe, why you believe it. Moral.
Oh, can I say one
Yeah,
more thing?
go ahead.
Austin said, my family, we are going to church.
Yeah.
One of the worst ideologies and things that's so common, though, is people say, I don't want to make my teenagers go to church because it'll just drive them away.
I've met adults who I'm like, why don't you go to church? They're like, well, my dad always made me go to church, and so I just hated it, so I just don't go to church. That is the stupidest thing. Did your dad make you brush your teeth? Did he make you change your underwear and bathe? I mean, now I have to say there are some churches that make the faith a drudgerous, horrible thing. Like they turn faith that's supposed to be joy. They take all the feasting and laughter out of pieism, and they totally miss the mark that Christians should be the most jovial people in the room.
Yeah.
And I
They make
think
it legalistic.
they do. And
Yeah.
I think they do sometimes hurt the faith of young people. But you cannot hinge all your faith on the personality of a church. It needs to be on the word of God.
Yeah.
That, though, is a separate issue. That is the question of, what if I went to a church that really wasn't the ideal and it kind of soured me on church? What I'm talking about is probably teenagers in particular that say, well, I want to sleep.
Yeah.
I want to sleep in. I don't want to
Because I stayed up till 3 a.m.
Yeah, I was playing video games till 3 last night, and I don't want to get up and go to church. Or churches, I find church boring. I don't like church. And parents say, well, if I make them go, then they're not going to go. But then they're not there anyway. Like you need, like Austin's saying, there's so many things that we make kids do because we know it is good for them.
Yeah. Well, and it's just very simple. Do you live under this roof? Do you eat from my table?
Mm-hmm.
Then I'm asking you to come to church. I'm not asking you to believe everything. I'm not asking you to, I'm asking you out of respect for me as the head of the household. I ask for this 1 hour a week for you to be there. And the truth of the matter is if they're at the age where they just want to sleep, you've missed an opportunity when they were younger.
Yeah. Like my kids, they have never a single time, either one of them, we've gotten up on Sunday, they've never asked, are we going to church?
You made it not an option.
Right.
It's not an option. That's what we do.
My kids are 21, 18, and 15, and never once has it, are we going to go to church?
Right.
In fact, there was one time a couple years ago where, with my wife being a teacher, we have a very tight schedule. Wednesday night was coming about, and we had our last chance to go to Daytona Beach for 3 days. And I remember it's like, this is our last chance. I'll have to miss Wednesday night. And we were talking about it, and Colin comes into the room. And this was when he was about 16. And he goes, Dad, I'm not missing youth group to sit on a beach. And as soon as he said that, it kind of put me to shame.
Yeah.
At the same time, it made me so happy because at some point, yes, I made them go. Yes, I made them. Yes, we read the Bible together. Yes. But at some point, he met Jesus and he fell in love with him. And that's the end goal.
That, it's so interesting because I've been thinking, preparing for the camp sermon. And I think it's such a great topic of like, where is my place in the church as a teenager? Because they're all at this place kind of where they're like, they probably have never even thought about like why they go to church, why their family takes them to church, and they're bored or, whatever. And maybe they're not, maybe they're a little bit more mature, but either way, they don't know that they've thought about like, you actually have a place. You are part of the church. And like, now's the time to take hold of that spot. And so as a teenager, that's what he was doing, essentially, is saying, no. Like, this is my people.
That's mine.
This is mine. Right.
And it's like Alyssa gets married here in a month and a half, and I'll be giving her away. And already she's been in a conversation with her new pastor of the church, her husband's church. And they don't have a piano player. And she told them, she goes, as soon as I get there, and they're like, oh yeah, we need you. So my daughter is looking forward. She's leaving Grace Point, where she has served in the worship group now since she was 13. And she's going as a 21-year-old woman to become the head pianist of another church.
That's really cool.
And I said to the pastor, I've become friends with him. He's a younger pastor. I go, man, I spent all these years training her, and she's gotten really good at her art, and we're using our worship, and now you're just going to take her. And he goes, well, isn't that kind of what you wanted as a dad?
Yeah.
I go, yeah, it is.
Yeah, that's nice and all. Can
Yeah.
we just say that she believes some kind of heresy
So that way she can stay.
so that they won't let her in that church?
Yeah, Robbie's like, I don't need to. I don't-
I'll take care of this.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
I'm going to miss her.
yeah.
Yeah.
All I'm saying is I heard she wasn't Trinitarian. I don't know. That's what I heard.
What's that guy's name? That new pastor? We'll find out.
Yeah.
No. So, couple more walls: moral walls, cultural walls, relational walls. So talking about what's allowed in your home, what kind of things are allowed to be watched, what kinds of things are laughed at when they're said, what's not laughed at, like what kind of music you listen to, what kind of speech is accepted. These are things that you've got to put standards around in your home. We're not watching X, whatever it is, and so, if a kid comes over and is trying to watch that with your kids, you have that wall up. That doesn't happen. We're not watching that in my home, and so some people might look at that and go, ooh, you're being way too strict.
Yeah. And I think that changes with age too.
Sure. We talked about that.
Yeah, we've talked about that in the
Yep.
past.
Yep.
It's like I'm not as tight on what my kids watch as much, but at the same time, they would never put something on with a sexually perverse thing in our living room because they know.
Yeah.
it
Well, you've
wouldn't
trained them.
fly.
You've trained
Yeah.
them.
But at the same time, rated R movies, because heads are rolling on the ground,
They'll watch that.
my kids are at the age where
Yeah.
that's
They're not going to decapitate people because they watch that movie.
Yeah.
I think Colin might. Circumstances are right.
I think both my boys have enough fire in their bones to do it if they had to.
With fire in our bones. The old
Yes.
ForgePress.com.
ForgePress.com.
Just throw that out there every time. I'll bat it every single time.
Yeah.
Got it, man.
All right. So the next level, thinking about, and if you look at the front of the book, it's got, walls and it's got gates. And the next level is gates. Okay. And so I said, walls alone are not enough. Strong, clear, and guarded gates must be built so that the faithful may enter and the wolves may be driven out. Gates are discernment. They are the practical mechanisms by which we decide who belongs, who may enter, and who must remain outside. And so the first one is educational gates. What teachers are allowed to shape your children, what books sit on shelves, what voices fill their ears.
Yeah, because education is forming affection.
Yeah.
And if you think about it that way, what affections are you forming? It's a good question to ask. What are your general practices?
For what? General practices?
There we go.
General practices.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm on the outside of that, but I feel like there was something funny I'm not getting.
That's a show.
It's from a show. Yeah.
What show?
How I Met Your Mother.
Oh, that's why I've not watched that one very much. I know of it. I just hadn't watched that one. Okay. So, obviously we care about education. But it's more than just like curriculum. I'm looking at it like you were talking about. Colin watched a lot of Charlie Kirk.
Yeah,
that was education that he was consuming. That wasn't in a school environment, but he was still receiving some sort of education. And so, luckily, that was a good one. But what if he's watching, some sort of propaganda videos online or whatever, and he's learning from that? And it's like, you still got to control what goes on in your home, which means this is the hard part about being a parent. You got to be really diligent. I'm not saying you have to be like a dictator, or anything like that. I probably lean more towards that by default.
Being a dictator?
Yeah, by default, that's my more natural tendency.
Or just without the tater part.
I'll take it. I'll take it. Whatever. I've been called worse. Friendship gates. So we sort of talked about this at the very outset, right?
Mm-hmm.
Who is allowed to get close enough to shape their affections? Courtship and marriage gates.
Oh yeah.
So that's a really important one. I want you to talk about it, Austin, because you had literally like the exact thing that we would advocate for.
Yes.
That doesn't always work out, but
Yes,
it did.
But honestly, if you want to know what to do right, don't watch me.
Yeah.
Everything happened by God's grace.
Yeah, of course.
And I got to say that I've seen in a school, I've seen parents do everything right and their kids end up just absolutely screwed up. And I've seen parents do everything wrong and their kids end up just good adults. But the Bible does give a promise that when we aim them, that they're more likely to hit the mark, and they are.
Yeah.
And so I'm not saying don't try, but I am a big advocate. I think we need to bring back organized marriages.
Yeah, family
marriages.
arranged marriages.
Heck yeah.
Yeah.
Because I have discovered,
I've got a couple people I've already like planted seeds with.
Oh,
like-
I'm working on it.
Like I've
Working on
got
it.
2 that are
Yeah.
for sale for the right dowry.
Right dowry. Yeah.
Messing.
That's I tell
Sort
you
of.
what, dude, you got
Give me a number.
2 weddings to pay for one day.
That's why I need a big dowry.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah.
Weddings are expensive.
No, but I think that's important. Like, have you had the talk with your kids? I mean, you have kids that are basically my kids' age. Like, I've told them, you don't have boyfriends right now. You're not going.
I've
to
definitely told my kids they will not have boyfriends.
Yeah.
That's
Yes.
that's
100%.
definitely something I have said. Yes.
Right. In fact, if I remember right, Robbie said, "I will disown you if you have
Yeah.
boyfriends."
Yes. Okay. That's a great dad. Because it's one thing to have a crush, right? It's another thing to say, "Oh, me and him are boyfriend and girlfriend," and it's like you're 10. You don't have a
you're right,
boyfriend. You won't have a boyfriend until a certain age, and I haven't really figured out exactly when that will be. And I think the 2 of them are a little bit different in maturity.
I was about to say it may not be the same
Right.
age.
Yeah,
Right.
and it falls into a bit of providence too.
Yeah.
Like I would say, I started dating Heather when she was 14.
I started dating Brooke when she was 14.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so we've been together.
And you were 20.
Yeah, that's so messed up.
Just kidding. Just
So
kidding.
messed up. So we were great apart, but 1.5 years in age. I mean, but that was 28 years ago.
You were 28?
I was 28. She was 14. Yeah, somebody's going to clip.
I know.
No.
Yeah.
No.
We don't have any. We only have keyboard
To clarify,
warriors.
you were what, like
16. I had just turned 16 and she was 14.
I was 15 and Brooke
Yeah.
was 14.
Yeah.
Um,
And the thing is, so would I advocate for somebody to find the love of their life at 14?
no.
No.
And by the way, as a youth pastor, it's really hard to talk to them about the wisdom of dating.
Yeah.
When the pastor of our church started dating his wife at 14.
Yeah.
It doesn't make it an easy. It doesn't
Yeah.
make it an easy
Yeah.
sell.
Hey, here's the same. They walk into my office,
Mhm.
and there's a picture of Heather and I as teenagers arm wrestling in my uncle's house because we were independent fundamentals. We weren't holding hands, but we were allowed to arm wrestle. Like,
And so you're like, oh, no.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
Well, you're a lot stronger than
Yeah.
I thought.
she's
Yeah.
like 95 pounds.
Yeah.
back. I was already hitting 200.
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
But it was. They come in, they see that picture, like, whoa, how old were you? I'm like,
9.
we were kids,
Mhm.
and I always tell them, what I have is not normal, and this is my.
But it could be more normal.
It could be, but here's the thing: marriage can be a piece of heaven on earth,
Yeah.
and it can be a piece of hell on earth.
Yeah.
And so you better make sure it's a godly. And they're not perfect. Every marriage is going to struggle. Everybody's going to fight. It's going to get hard and hard until it starts getting easier. It's one of like now at 24 years, it's a lot easier than I say it was the first 3 years.
Sure.
We fought a lot the first 3 years.
I want to. I know that's slightly off topic, but
yeah.
because people oftentimes say there's a honeymoon period
Yes.
at the beginning. That was not my experience.
Yeah, it wasn't mine
It was-
either.
the beginning was the hardest.
Yes,
to
me
me.
too.
Yeah.
Our first 3 years was the hardest. And we fought like cats and dogs, mostly because I was young and I was shellfish, and she
You were
was
shellfish.
selfish.
You were an unclean.
I was a
food.
shellfish, and she had
Sorry.
iodine allergies. So
Yeah,
of
yeah.
course,
Yeah, it didn't work out very well.
No.
Yeah.
No, when you're young, you're selfish.
Mm.
I would say I was extremely selfish, and I had, y'all would never believe
Bravado.
this.
You had some.
You would never believe I had a temper.
Mm.
You would never guess it.
Nope.
No,
No.
Don't
No,
see it
sir.
at all.
No, sir. I wouldn't. No,
No,
sir.
I definitely no temper.
Yeah. I had to learn to control my temper. And first 3 years were rough. And then we went to a weekend to remember. And I would advertise and push that for any couple. Those weekend to remember wedding retreat things are awesome. Well done. It's marriage counseling over a weekend. You go away to a hotel. They Dobson, James Dobson's group.
Focus on the family.
Focus on the family. And so they do an excellent job. But we went to that in our 10 years. By then, our marriage was finally getting healthy again. It was pretty healthy most of the time. But 10 years, I remember we were going to that, and Heather goes, "Isn't this for people who have marriage problems?" I was like, "Yes, but I'd rather invest." And it got even better. And so, yes, I would agree with you.
Mm-hmm.
It was rougher until we learned to grow up into each other.
Yeah.
And marriage, if you're doing marriage right, it's not about your happiness. It's about your sanctification, which
100%.
brings joy.
100%.
And
Marriage is not designed to make you happy. It's designed to make you holy.
Yes. And that holy brings joy, which is far better than happiness.
Yeah.
And far longer lasting. It's generational
Yeah.
when it's done right.
Yep.
And now there ain't nobody I'd rather spend time with than my
Yeah.
wife. But
Yeah.
I couldn't say that was the honest truth at the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
I loved her, but I had to learn what it meant to be a husband. She had to learn what it meant to be a wife.
Well, you're used to getting your way all the time.
Yeah.
Right. And so ultimately, when you put two humans who are flawed together, there's going to be issues unless you're perfect like me.
Yeah.
Then there's never issues living with me.
Yeah. You are
That's a lot
probably
for
one of
Brooke
the
to get
most
used to, though.
laid-
It really-
being
it was-
married to a
it
perfect
was-
person.
It was
yeah.
very hard for her to get used to that.
Yeah.
She
The
figured it
tater.
out. Yeah. All right. So church membership gates. Who belongs to the covenant body? And so is church membership important? Is it important to put walls and gates around like who is?
It's biblical. Corinthians is all about putting gates of the one man who brags about sleeping with his father's wife.
They kicked him out of the
Said,
gates. Yeah.
You're not to eat with him, not to fellowship. And the Bible says, turn him over to Satan, which means he was put out of the protection of the church.
Yep.
So the church had gates. The church had gates. And not only that, but if you go during the early, 100, around the first century,
Yeah.
persecution was on the major rise. During that time, they vetted you before you were baptized because they wanted to make sure you were actually one of them.
Mm-hmm.
So that you don't lead to the rest of the church being persecuted.
Yep.
Which is where the Baptists get their tradition about now vetting, which I don't think is necessarily biblical. I think it was a necessity in the first century for the protection of the church, to make sure somebody's confession is real and then baptizing them into the church.
Yeah.
But nonetheless, gates are biblical, walls are biblical, and we're going to make Mexico pay for it.
That's right. What about leadership gates?
Oh,
Is it important to ensure that your leaders are qualified?
it is a lot harder to put a leader outside. It's a lot easier to bring them in than to get them out. I've seen that in the school. I've seen that in the church.
So, once they're in, they're entrenched.
They're entrenched.
Yeah. Okay.
So, and that's what Timothy gives a lot of very high standards for deacons and elders.
Mm-hmm.
We got to take those very seriously.
And the whole church does. The whole
Yes.
church needs to be familiar with those and not bringing in somebody to that church that should not be there.
Well, even with us having a Christian school, one of our early principals, I hired him into that position because he was a great organizer, but he was a very immature Christian. And that was a learning curve. You were there for the end of that learning curve.
Mhm.
You remember how tragic that was.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was an interesting first year.
Yeah, it was. And I wish nothing but the best for that man. I'm not speaking bad of him, but it made me realize up front that if we are going to be a ministry school, I need a man at the helm with a ministry heart. and who has Christian maturity for that. Now, there's nobody who's going to be perfectly mature, but somebody who's at least loves Jesus, knows his Bible, and is going to have the same ideologies that we have,
Mhm.
and is willing to grow into that position. And putting bad leadership can destroy an organization quicker than anything else. And I would say, even when you talk about leadership gates,
Mm-hmm.
those leadership gates play into the households of the people of the church.
Of course they do. Yeah.
I mean, who are your elders? That
Mhm.
plays into everything if your church is actually close knit, like it should be.
What about from the borough perspective? So one of the things that I said shared standard specifically in the borough setting, shared standards of worship, education, and community life must be formalized and enforced. I said the borough that admits everyone admits no one, because a community without shared conviction really has no reason to exist at all.
Yeah, if you don't have a same culture, you can't exist.
Which means not everyone gets in.
No, and not everyone should get in.
Right.
Now, we're not talking about the kingdom of heaven. We're not talking
No, of course
about the
not.
gospel.
Of course not. Right.
We're talking about, because you have the universal church,
Mm-hmm.
and I got to be very careful with that statement. People take
The
that-
Catholic Church?
Yeah, the Catholic Church. Yes, the church is made up of all the redeemed of Christ, and they are our brothers and sisters.
Yes.
And I love, like, for instance, I love my Anglican brothers and sisters. I believe that good hunk of them have the gospel right, and they're our brothers and
Sure.
sisters. With that being said, they don't have the same ideology. They don't have the same moral standards. There's a lot of things we don't have in common. So they can be my brothers and sisters, but I'm not going to allow somebody with an Anglican outview to be in the leadership of our church.
That's right.
Or
And we did a whole episode on theological triage talking about what those things are, which I just saw one the other day. You ever watch that Live Free podcast?
yes, I have.
So they just did one on the same exact thing, and it was so much like ours. And I was like,
They watched ours.
we should have trademarked it.
They watched ours and did theirs.
As if we were the ones that came up with
the
that
dictators watching the Live Free
podcast.
podcast. Okay.
Yeah. What's that guy's name?
I don't remember.
Uh,
I've only seen a few little shorts. and-
Howerton? Is it Josh Howerton? Something like that. Anyway, this is not that
There
podcast.
is a guy named Josh Howard.
This is not that podcast. So we'll talk
all
about
I
just
know
ours.
is they all have way nicer sets than us.
We're on our way to that.
We
All
will get
we
there.
need is 10 $1,000 donations. Or one $10,000 donation.
Folks,
We'll take either one.
do you want Robbie to have a different shirt next time?
Poor guy.
Oh.
Getting
man.
holes in it.
What?
It's getting holes in it now.
Yeah. Yeah.
It'd be nice to have a change of underwear.
Yeah. And he doesn't even have socks.
No, it was
Poor guy.
bad. Tucks it underneath.
Yeah. Hide it. All right. So, one of the things that I'll say is it is temporarily uncomfortable to create walls and gates, because it means that you've got to do things that other people might not understand.
We might have to say no.
You might have
right?
to say no.
Mhm.
You might have to say not right now, or you might have to say this is not what we do.
This
even
is
if your
not
buddy
who
does
we
it.
are.
Right. This is not who we are. It's not what we're about. And so it's temporarily uncomfortable to do that. But long term, it's one of the best things you can do.
Well, and people see churches and they think, well, a church should just be like, everybody should be a part of our church.
Sure.
And I'm sitting there going, wait, God created ecclesias, different bodies in this day and age we live, and you might not fit in this body. And the Bible says outright, Jesus places people in the body where it pleases him. And so I want Grace Point to be fitted a healthy body with every part where it's supposed to be. I don't need two big toes, on one foot.
Yep.
The thing is God's going to put the body together as he sees fit. And so this is going to sound very counterproductive to all the church growth institutes. I don't want everybody.
Well, they're so biblical anyway.
Yeah. I want a healthy church.
Yeah.
I want to be able to stand before the Lord and be told, well done, and be able to cast at his feet what he has done in us.
Yeah.
Not what we have brought in by fog machines, flashes, and lights. And I'm not saying there's necessarily wrong with those things. I'm just saying that's not how you
So
build
we
a healthy
can get a
church.
fog machine?
We have a fog machine. We just never use it.
No.
We use it for plays.
You t-
We have a fog machine.
yeah.
We don't.
No,
Next
We used
time.
to. We used to.
You used to
Next
have a fog
time. Did you get rid of my fog machine?
No, sir.
Please tell me you didn't get rid of that.
We didn't get rid of it. It's up there in the.
Okay, good.
way up in the
Yeah,
air.
yeah,
behind us.
We use that for plays and stuff.
Yeah, I know. You told me that. I was like, when was the last time you used it? Oh, 10 years ago.
It wasn't 10. It was probably about 4.
But it might be gone if we don't use it the next couple of years. Who knows?
Well, we're supposed to be having drama again. Hopefully
really?
next
I
year.
hope
Yeah.
so. I actually miss our plays. that
I
we
miss
put on.
drama too.
That's cool.
So
Yeah.
we'll hopefully have drama this coming year.
Well, good. All right. Well, let's close this one out. Walls are not built because we hate outsiders. Robbie is the only one that does that.
I love how I'm like the most laid back,
Yeah.
inclusive person here. But okay.
They are built because we love those who are inside, right? And so a father builds walls because his children are precious to him. A shepherd guards the flock because the sheep are vulnerable. And a church practices a discipline because holiness matters. And so if you love what is within your walls, you have to protect it. And so I would say build the walls.
Amen.
Anything else? All hearts and minds clear?
All hearts and minds clear.
All right. Until next time,
Build a wall.
build a wall.